Hello, everyone, and welcome to another installment of our Southern California housing market update. This is for March 1st, 2022. My name is Stephen Meade with Domicile real estate for people who love houses. Welcome back to our whole market update. We're actually shooting on location in Palm Springs right now, so I apologize if the lighting is a little bit funky here. The joys of making videos in a hotel room. It's been kind of an interesting week, and I'm going to tell you that a little bit of a theme that we've been talking about, and something that I've been thinking a lot about personally is we have a lot of things in our market that are limiting supply, and I try to avoid doing anything political, but I will say that I think a lot of these supply limitations are of our own making with some of our enacted legislation and policies. But that's what we're stuck with at the moment, right? And I don't think that's going to change anytime soon. But we also have a lot of forces right now. Interest rates are rising. They have risen quite significantly in the last 60 days. And the market has responded by being crazier. Now, initially, one of the things that I've noticed that happens a lot in our market is if interest rates jump, we get kind of this almost panic buying that sets in, right? Where people are just, I need to buy something, I need to buy anything before I get priced out. And that actually drives prices up, right? It makes a market that you think should cool off a little bit get crazier. And usually that lasts a couple of weeks, and it's still going, right? We are experiencing a market that is incredibly resilient to these interest rate increases. And I think there's a couple of reasons for that. But something that I've been thinking about, that I'm concerned with is there some sort of a spring back, right? Is there a delayed reaction that we're not seeing that could show up later? Or is this just a function that, because our supply and demand are so out of whack, so out of balance that, yeah, we've got signs that the market is cooling a little bit, but is it really that much? And is that just the way it is because of our extremely limited supply? So I'm going to go ahead and launch into the stats, and we're going to kind of talk about it. So remember this theme, kind of walking through everything. So let's go ahead and get started. And I'm not seeing our screen share working. So let me try to figure out why we are not having our screen share working. I know sometimes with preview, if you're working from a MacBook, it just doesn't want to. So let's try this again. I think we've got it fixed and worked out here. There we go. This is what we are looking for. So just give me a second here, and we're going to start from the beginning of our slide deck. Okay, total active listings, a little bit of good news, right? They are going up, both of our pricing categories, under $1 million, 1 to 2 million, edging up ever so slightly. That's good news. Last year, we were in kind of an inventory trough by now where it was decreasing or just sitting flat and stagnant. But the problem is we're still quite a bit lower than we were last year. So, this curve looks a little bit different, I think, because of the rising interest rates, but I don't think the overall effect isn't enough to make the market any better than it was last year. In fact, it is still worse. If you were a buyer, I should say. For a seller, it's definitely a better market than it was last year. So here's new listings. I think this one's kind of interesting. We've kind of got a flat level here of new listings coming in the market. And what's a bummer is, look what was happening last year in this under 1 million category. This is where our upswing was happening, right? This is where we were seeing us gearing up for spring, and yet not happening. It's kind of lying flat here. Now, it's a little bit better here in our 1 to 2 million, and it looks a lot like last year. Similar levels of new listings coming to the market, but we are still falling way short on those entry-level under $1 million properties. It's not just the number of these that are coming up. Someone made a comment to me privately, and they said, well, don't you think that part of this might be that the market has just moved over $1 million? There just aren't as many. And I said, yes, I think that's possible, but look at the shape of this curve. We're not seeing that acceleration into spring like we normally see. And even back here, we're only seeing the same levels of listings. So flat out across from $0 to $2 million, there are just not as many houses coming up for sale as there were last year. Not really even close. And that's a problem. Now, if we look at our new escrows, we actually see a slight decline and flat. And these levels are significantly lower than last year. So for the people saying, why isn't the market responding to higher interest rates? I think in some ways it is a little bit. Demand is down. The problem is inventory is so much less. It's not really changing that supply-demand dynamic very much. That relationship remains the same because both supply and demand have been reduced. Now, if we look at our absorption rate, this is kind of a little bit of a quicker and a dirtier thing. And this says why there are still multiple offers on tons of the houses. We're approaching 90% for our under 1 million category. I'm sorry, by any measure, that is a very, very brisk market. That means pretty much whatever's coming on the market is, we are seeing properties get absorbed at almost the same rate that they are coming onto the market. There's just not a lot of extra homes out there. And I think that's something consumers and buyers are feeling. It's also something sellers are feeling. Even if they have a house that isn't great, it's still getting tons of showings, tons of attention. Now, looking at our 1 to 2 million category, that's a little bit lower, but so it was last year as well. That market doesn't always have quite the same absorption characteristics because those purchases tend to gestate a little bit longer, though we're still seeing that as a very, very competitive market, especially in certain neighborhoods and areas. Anything coastal, 1 to 2 million is still a very active market. Now, if we look at our closed prices, bearing in mind again that this data is 4 to 6 weeks old, we saw huge jumps right last week. Our median is still growing. You look for last year, this is definitely growth in prices, right? We're starting to see that growth down here in our entry level. And even here, I would argue there's been a little bit of growth in that 75th percentile too. We're kind of on a down week, but again, you looked at that jump. I think just give it another couple of weeks, you're going to see it extend kind of in this middle area towards 1,325. I truly believe we're going to see that in the next couple of weeks. Now, looking at our percent still active after 14 days, this just doesn't look, this looks at the exact homes that came up in the last 2 weeks. It says how many of them are still available. And these numbers are diving a little bit. These are very competitive numbers. Now, it's not as bad as it was a year ago for under 1 million, but these are still very competitive numbers if you're looking throughout history. I mean, versus early fall of last year, way more competitive market for both our under 1 million and our 1 to 2 million. So that's the reason why consumers are out there and they're saying rates are up, and yet I'm still competing against a bunch of buyers. Now, if we look at our close to list ratio, this tells you a lot about what buyers think versus what sellers think, right? Sellers are here and buyers are up here. Look at this under 1 million category. I mean, we're at about 104%. That represents where we were at our peak-ish last year in May and June. But look at this number for our 1 to 2 million. It's off the charts. We are well over 105% of list price on average. These $1 to $2 million properties are just getting bid up like crazy. Nobody is walking in the door expecting to pay list price. Nobody is writing offers at list price on these properties. They are all writing higher offers. And then our days on market for new contracts. So these are the homes actually going into escrow. How long is it taking? Not long at all, fewer than 20 days. I don't know. I don't know what to say other than to tell you that matches right up with where we all were, gosh, more than April timeframe, right, for our under 1 million. And this is the lowest numbers we have ever seen for our 1 to 2 million. There is just not enough homes to go around. And that's what we're seeing in this. And despite the higher interest rates, that isn't scaring off the buyers in droves. And the buyers that are scared off, their sellers scared off too. So it's really a net zero. And then if you look at our affordability, and this is really the number that makes me pause a little bit here. If you look at kind of our history, back in 2018, that was our baseline. All through 2019 and pretty much through, 2020, homes were actually cheaper than they were in mid-2018 from a payment perspective. It wasn't until we hit 2021, 2020 and 2021 that we really started seeing these numbers go up. So through 2020, they went up to this 110, 120% level where they kind of went back and forth. And then towards the end of last year, things started accelerating as interest rates went up. And here we are today. The payment on a median priced home is 30% higher than it was roughly 3.5, 4 years ago. Given where inflation's at, I don't think that that's a terrible number yet. That's not a number that scares me, but it's absolutely a number that we're keeping an eye on, because this cannot go up unlimitedly, right? It cannot exceed inflation for too long. I do think the inventory crisis is fueling this a little bit. This is making these numbers go up faster than inflation, as you would expect, a tighter housing market. So I do expect this to exceed inflation by a little bit, but understand that you long-term sustainable, you can't have this number going up double the rate of inflation. So ironically, inflation is part of what allows this number to go up higher and it not put us in a precarious position. So, for me, that's what I keep thinking about, is watching this number and saying, is the Ukraine situation, is this going to pause our interest rate growth for a while? Is that going to kind of put a stop to it? If it does, it's going to result in higher home prices. I think we need a little bit of this market relief. In some ways, having these interest rates rises, it is sucking a little bit of demand out, and it's bringing us at least a little bit closer to that supply-demand equilibrium, because we are still so far off of it that it is not, it's not like suddenly you can get your offer accepted really easily. So finally, interest rates. Prevailing rates, as done by Freddie Mac, they do a weekly survey. And here we are heading towards 4%. Pretty much, that's right where we're at. The Ukraine situation has put a little bit of a pause on those rates, with uncertainty in the market. But I think as that situation clarifies, unless there are major GDP disruptions, I think we're going to keep seeing some interest rate increases. And I've always said it's not about how far they go, but how fast they go. So, what I'd like to see is the slope of this curve flatten out a little bit. I think that would, be a lot more sustainable, but here's where we are. I hope everybody's having a happy Tuesday here. It is beautiful and warm here in Palm Springs. We're glad to have you with us. As always, do not forget to like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell. If you like what we're doing, please do comment or send us. There's ways to get in touch with us via our channel. Absolutely reach out to us. We would love to talk to you. If you're looking to buy or sell real estate in Southern California, let us lend you our expertise and help you with that. We would love to do that. Just reach out. I'm trying to think if there's anything else. Obviously, our next video is going to be our architectural video that comes out on Thursday, and then our first-time home buyer video, which comes out on Friday for our market update for first-time buyers, specifically where we look at the entry-level end of the market. Also, there's a link below. Do not forget, we have our own real estate app. There are no ads. We don't sell your data to third parties. So find houses, not hassles. And you can ask us questions about houses directly from the app, which is pretty cool. I'm thinking that's pretty much it. Thanks so much for watching. We'll see you again real soon.